you can see, I'm joined by my distinguished colleagues, Senator Harkin, Senator Feinstein, Senator Hatch, Michael J. Fox, who is, I think, America's leading advocate for stem cell research. And we are here today to press very hard for the enactment of the Specter-Harkin bill, which is identical to the House bill, which was passed with some 50 Republican votes. The matter will be coming up for Senate consideration, we think, sometimes next week. We're now working out the details of what we call the unanimous consent agreement. But we're here today to emphasize the importance of moving ahead, and moving ahead promptly, on ways where we have proved the ability to harvest stem cells to cure maladies and not be distracted by alternative stalking horses. Yesterday in this room we held an extensive hearing about a number of alternatives where suggestions have been made that there can be a way to save the embryo and still harvest the stem cells. And speaking for myself, I'd be glad to see research pursued along that line, provided it does not provide an alternative or a stalking horse or a way to divert votes away from the Specter-Harkin bill, where we know what we can accomplish. We know we can utilize those stem cells to fight Parkinson's and to fight cancer and to fight heart disease and so many other maladies which confront 110 million Americans directly or indirectly, and billions of more people around the world. Just very briefly on a personal note, President Nixon declared war on cancer in 1970, and had we utilized the resources on that war that we've used on other wars, I think we could have cured cancer long ago. Tomorrow is the one-year anniversary of one of our Senate family, Kerry Lackman, who was my chief of staff and is known by many, many people in this room, who died of breast cancer. A beautiful young woman, 48, who worked for Senator Hines, was in the Senate family for more than a decade, and her death could have been prevented. And you've heard me comment, and it'll just be 15 seconds. I think had the war been waged on cancer, there would have been a prevention for lymphoma, Hodgkin's cancer, which now is on my agenda. But this is a very, very important item. We're going to save the cleanup hitter for last, Michael, if that's all right with you. And Senator Harkin is going to do the introduction, so let me yield at this point to my colleague, Senator Hatch, who has been very courageous, is a very, very strong pro-life senator who has come forward on this stem cell issue and has lent great credibility to this cause. Warren?
Well, thank you so much, Arlen. Arlen's a hero to me and to all of us because of the way he's handling others who are suffering from dread diseases. Michael J. Fox is a hero to me, too, in every way. So I'm proud to be here today with all these incredible people who are in support of stem cell research of all kinds. I first want to commend my colleagues, Senators Specter and Harkin, and of course Congressman Castle and Congresswoman DeGette. Terrific people. They now have held, in the case of Senator Specter and Harkin, they've held a comprehensive series of now 16 hearings on stem cell research over the past 7 years. It is their original legislation that forms the basis of the Castle-DeGette H.R. 10 that passed the House last month. And I am pleased that these representatives are here with us today. Now, I urge my colleagues in the Senate to vote for H.R. 810. I urge President Bush to sign H.R. 810 into law when it is presented to him. And I hope that we can get enough votes here to make it very clear that this research is going to go ahead. And we want it to go ahead now. I'm supportive of all forms of stem cell research that can be conducted in an ethical manner. This includes adult stem cell research. This includes embryonic stem cell research conducted through the through the technology of somatic cell nuclear transplant. This includes cord blood stem cell research. And just 2 weeks ago, we passed the cord blood bill through that has been conferenced with the House. So we are certainly going to move forward on that. And I also pleased that the Senate is poised to pass cord blood stem cell research legislation that I've been working on for several years as well, for over 3 years. Now, I urge my colleagues to vote for S1317, a bipartisan bicameral bill with Senator Feinstein that will enhance, and others, that will enhance cord blood stem cell and bone marrow research and treatment. This is a bill that has to go through. Recently, there's been an interest by many, including the President's Council on Bioethics, and some members of Congress in other forms of stem cell research. Just yesterday, Senators Specter and Harkin held a hearing of the Labor HHS Appropriations Subcommittee that examined progress in some of these new techniques. I believe that all forms of stem cell research may be undertaken in an ethical fashion, and that should be fully explored. In this regard, I was pleased to learn, despite the fact that much of the research in these new techniques is in the preliminary stages, the bill reported by the Labor HHS Appropriations Subcommittee yesterday contained language that instructs NIH to fund these new potential techniques of deriving stem cells. Now, I understand that Senators Frist and Enzi are interested in developing legislation to promote other potential techniques of deriving stem cells. I am open to all suggestions, and I urge my colleagues and other interested parties to keep an open mind as well, if complementary techniques and legislation are developed. Stem cells, most of which I understand are largely unproven at this time, somehow justify diminished support for tested and demonstrated means of deriving stem cells such as from spare embryos slated for destruction. Substitute research, no. It provides vital ethical research. Patients are waiting all across America. It can take 10 to 20 years or longer for this research to bear fruit, and we need to start now. When you look into the eyes of the sick, you know that we must redouble our efforts today without further delay. So let's adopt H.R. 810 as soon as we can. I hope we can get a lot of us stand together, and I think that all of you folks out there who are watching will really do your job with senators in the United States Senate and let them know how important this research is for the good and benefit of mankind and for hopefully at least the derivations of these diseases, let alone maybe the treatments and cures. And I believe the treatments and cures are there. We just have to find them, but we have to start now. And I'm so grateful for all these people.
Well, this is an exciting and hopeful time for millions of Americans who suffer from juvenile diabetes, ALS, Parkinson's, spinal cord injuries. They have a new hope for treatment. Expand the number of stem cell lines eligible for federally funded research. This was a strong bipartisan vote, 238 to 194. Our thanks go to Congressman Castle and Congresswoman DeGette for their great leadership, and we'll hear from them shortly. But now it's up to us in the Senate to pass the exact same bill without any amendments. We don't want it getting lost at a conference committee. We need to pass H.R. 810 by a strong bipartisan majority, which we will, and send it straight to the President's desk. Regrettably, opponents of this bill are trying to muddy the waters. They want the Senate to vote on 4 or 5 or 6 bills, some of which have nothing to do with stem cell research. Their strategy is simple. They're trying to convince senators that instead of supporting H.R. off of H.R. 810, that will keep us from getting the 60 votes we need to stop the filibuster. Let's be clear. These alternative approaches are currently nothing but theories. They are hypothetical, speculative, and totally unproven. Should we pursue these alternative methods? Well, as both Senator Hatch and Senator Specter said, of course we should. But we cannot delay the pursuit, and we must not delay the pursuit of medical research on existing human embryonic stem cells while these more speculative methods are explored. As we stand here today, many of our loved ones are suffering from juvenile diabetes, ALS, Parkinson's disease, spinal cord injury. These people shouldn't have to wait 10 or 20 years to see if an alternative method somehow pans out. I believe we have a moral obligation to help alleviate human suffering. And we can do so with strong ethical guidelines. That's what H.R. 810 is all about. And so all of my friends who are here today, I urge, the time is right. It is now. We want to bring this bill out before we go home for the August break. We want to bring up H.R. 810 without amendments. We want to pass it, which we will, with a strong bipartisan vote in the United States Senate and send it to the President's desk. We need you to call everyone in the country, all of the groups that you belong to, your friends, your families, in every state across the nation. Now is the time to ring the phones here in the United States Senate. Now is the time to get the emails in. Now is the time for action to get this bill passed. And we want to bring it up, remember, H.R. 810, without any amendments. And with that, let me go down the line and introduce my notes to Senator Kennedy. Senator, no, I'm just going by
I first want to join all of us here today in paying tribute to Michael Fox, as we have done many, many times. This is an extraordinary actor who could rest on his laurels, but whenever the call is out there on the issues of stem cell research, other important issues, he is here. He's always available, and he speaks with a conviction and compassion and a sense of urgency that America should listen to. We're here because we believe that when science offers the door to hope, we shouldn't allow rigid ideology to slam it shut. A true culture of life seeks to cure disease and alleviate suffering, not deny health. That's why many of the nation's major religious leaders have written to Senator Frist today to urge him to schedule an immediate vote on the bipartisan stem cell research bill. We should be going full speed ahead, but those who oppose this research keep slamming on the brakes. Let's wait, they say, until we've exhausted the potential for adult stem cells. I'm all for trying the new methods to bring cures to patients, but let me ask you this: does anyone here think that we should wait until adult stem cells have been tried before we allow scientists to do more embryonic stem cell research? No. Others say, let's wait until scientists explore untried and untested new theories for generating stem cells. I'm all for new ways of obtaining stem cells, but it makes no sense to delay obvious types of such research until speculative new theories are proven. Our opponents say, let's not vote yet. Give us time to load up the bipartisan stem cell legislation passed by the House with poison pills and unrelated issues. I'm all for full debate, but let me ask you this. Does anyone here think that we should put poison pills ahead of the search for cures? Does anyone think that we should delay any longer before bringing the House bill to a vote in the United States Senate? No. Does anyone think the President should veto the bill once it reaches his desk? No. Let's tell the Senate to bring up the bipartisan stem cell bill just as the House passed it. Not muddy the waters by trying to substitute proposals or less promising alternatives. Let's have a clear vote on it, just like the House did, and let's ask the President to stand up and sign this law. The leaders of the NIH stem cell program have written to Congress to say that there isn't any published scientific data to show that these alternatives will work. Every time there's a chance to explore the potential of embryonic stem cells, our opponents throw up another roadblock or smokescreen. First, there was the restrictions imposed by President Bush. Next, there was the idea that we should confine research to adult cells. Now, it's the speculative new methods. The words change, but the tune stays the same. Block life-saving research and put ideology ahead of patients. Are we going to let them do it? The answer is no. Thank you very much.
I want to congratulate Mike Castle and Diane DeGette. Don't you think, hasn't the House... We on the Senate side are often critical of the House side, and it's just so great to see them on the...
Never vice versa.
Never vice versa, yes. On the frontier of new development. And to Michael J. Fox, if it's any consolation, we can have a press conference on the most momentous of issues, and maybe there's one camera and 6 people, and you appear and you just stand there, and every single camera is trained on you, every expression.
We should look into that.
It is truly a humbling thing, I want you to know. I think the time is really getting close, and I think it's really so important that you care and that you work hard from this point on. As my colleagues have expressed, there are people who do not want the House bill to become law. There are people who do not want the cord blood bill to become law. There are people who want to obfuscate this issue. There are people who really, I think, are not terribly moved by chronic, debilitating illness, but are moved by ideologic concerns. We are not among them. What we see are people in need, people suffering, people who might be helped by researchers. I just heard today that Illinois, the governor has just signed an executive order on Tuesday to distribute $10 million in grants for stem cell research. My own state has passed by a substantial majority a bond issue for $3 billion for stem cell research over the next 10 years. Connecticut has done $100 million over 10 years, and New Jersey, the state senate, has approved $150 million. So 4 states are essentially in the vanguard of a movement that is crossing America because people see human suffering and people care about it, and they want to be able to remediate it, and this is our chance. So I have to think that it's going to get rough and tumble before this bill comes out of the Senate, and even more rough and tumble when it goes to the President. He has said he will veto it. Only the voices of the American people, hopefully generated by your action, will change that. I'm really convinced of that. And so my message to you today is please, if you really care, go out and work for this. Go out and stay on the phone. Go out and stay on your computer. Get people who have Parkinson's, who have juvenile diabetes, who are wheelchair bound, to weigh in all across this nation so that there is such a drumbeat of voices that the Senate of the United States and the President of the United States said, the time has come, we are going to move this bill. Thank you.
Hero from the House. Mike Castle.
Let me start by thanking these senators. They've done a wonderful job. And obviously, I especially thank Senator Specter, who's fighting through a difficult disease himself and is doing a hell of a job legislating as far as I'm concerned. Several months ago, I spoke at a Washington synagogue, and there were 2,200 people there, TV cameras. I'm from Delaware. I've never spoken to more than 300 people one time in my life. And my staff to this day tells me that those 2,200 people were there to see me, in spite of the fact that Michael J. Fox is speaking right after me. I still think of Michael at this point. We're delighted to have you on our side in this. We need a repeat in the Senate, the bipartisan vote we had on H.R. 810 in the House in May, because the facts and science are on our side. In spite of the fact we have the brightest scientists and the leading biomedical research institution in the form of the NIH, places like Singapore, Israel, South Korea, and Great Britain are progressing fast and furiously. Meanwhile, the United States researchers are in shackles and are losing leadership in helping the 110 million Americans and hundreds of millions of people worldwide who are suffering. We need immediate action. In recent days, there's been much discussion about alternative derivations of embryonic stem cells and how this should be a compromise on the Senate floor. In my opinion, there may be some merit here, but the time lost to those suffering is immeasurable. Alternative sources of derivation are not proven. It could take years, decades even, to figure this out in research, as it would otherwise be discarded as hospital waste. Some members are purposely muddying the waters by promoting a variety of bills to siphon votes off H.R. 810. Others are saying they will support the alternatives bill because they want the president to sign something into law. Well, quite frankly, if that is the case, what he would sign into law would actually be a drag on research, not something that advances research. The bottom line is this: senators who vote for the alternatives bill and not H.R. 810 are voting to delay medical research indefinitely. And if President Bush only signs the alternative bill, he will bear the same responsibility. Every single one of these people would be hiding behind a false front. And just in closing, I would just like to thank Diana DeGette for her tremendous work. She was a true partner in this in every way possible. And she's the next speaker.
I want to thank my compadre, Mike Castle, and also all of my friends in the Senate, and most especially Michael J. Fox, who's come here today. Michael really is the face of so many people here, so many people around the country who stand for why we need this research, and we really want to thank you. I also want to thank my friend Jim Langevin, who is our colleague from the House, who was one of our key whips in helping get the votes. When we look at what happened in the House, it's clear the vast majority of Americans, Democrats and Republicans, pro-life and pro-choice, support embryonic stem cell research. The majority of the U.S. House of Representatives, Democrats and Republicans, pro-life and pro-choice, support embryonic stem cell research. And now it's up to the Senate. I believe my wonderful colleagues who are fighting in the Senate, we have a majority in the Senate, Democrat, Republican, pro-life, and pro-choice. The time is now. President Bush's executive order in 2001 has just proven not to work. At the same time, research is showing enormous promise. Promise for diseases like Parkinson's, diabetes, nerve damage, Alzheimer's, and so many, many other diseases. Research is going into private hands. Research is going overseas and abroad. And the research that's going on is going on without the engine of the U.S. government, the National Institutes of Health, and without the strong ethical guidance that the NIH can give to the research. This is wrong, and Congress must act. Now, I'm sure Mike Castle feels this is deja vu all over again in the Senate, because the same thing happened in the House. We presented our modest legislation in the House. We had a majority of House members supporting the legislation. Thank you very much.
She mentioned him, but I want to also recognize him, and I don't know if he's got a couple of words he wants to say. I don't have the mic to give him, but Congressman Jim Langevin, who's just done such a great job.
I'm just proud to be a part of this effort. I really see a light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting closer and closer, and each and every one of you here today, especially our senators, are keeping the momentum moving, and it's becoming unstoppable. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. As many of you know, Dana Reeve was scheduled to join us today. Unfortunately, she had to cancel due to a family emergency. I understand that she has sent a statement expressing her support for H.R. 810 and stem cell research. Her statement is at the press table, I guess. She has been a stalwart in this cause, and we wish her and her family well. Well, now I have the honor of introducing somebody you don't even know who I'm going to introduce, right? Michael J. Fox. I guess after all this, was, I don't really need to introduce him, but as a point of personal privilege, let me speak from my heart about this very remarkable individual. When I called up Michael to invite him to join us at this press conference, you know, a lot of times you call up famous people and, well, it's always, the standard line is, let me get back to you on that. That's not what he said. He said, when and where and what can I do to help? That just speaks volumes about Michael J. Fox, his passion, and his commitment to the cause of embryonic stem cell research. We all know that in 1998, Michael disclosed that he had Parkinson's. 2 years later, he launched the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research and became a tireless advocate for more aggressive medical research. So let me just tell all of you that elsewhere, Michael is admired as an actor and a Hollywood star. Here on the Hill, Michael is a star also, but for a very different reason. We have come to admire the power of his advocacy, his persistence, and his passion. In the quest for a cure for Parkinson's and in the fight for embryonic stem cell research, Michael J. Fox is our superstar. And it's great to have him with us today.
That was stealthy. You got in and ordered the mics. Nice. Well, once again, I took the short straw and I get to speak last. The issue of stem cell research is one I know something about. As both Parkinson's disease patient and as the head of a foundation that is the largest nonprofit funder of Parkinson's disease research outside of the U.S. government. And in those roles, I often hear from patients and their families who call and write and tell me. They tell me their stories of hope and frustration. When it comes to broader federal government support for stem cells, they always ask me one question: why isn't it getting done? And my answer is, I don't know. I know that there is leadership from both parties. I know that there is broad bipartisan support for what is clearly a nonpartisan issue. Just take a look at the senators and members of Congress in this room. It's an impressive group of men and women who have worked long and hard for years. They've devoted considerable thought and, yes, prayer to this issue. I know that the science is clear. Even the NIH says that more embryonic stem cell lines are needed. I know that in the context of Parkinson's disease, embryonic stem cell technology promises advances that are not available in any other way. Our foundation alone has funded $10 million in stem cell research over the past 4 years, and actually compared various types of stem cells for Parkinson's disease. The results are unequivocal. At this point, only embryonic stem cells can produce enough of the neurons needed for cell replacement by a factor of millions. When it comes to PD, if science were a foot race, embryonic stem cells would be miles ahead. And the same is true in spinal cord injury, diabetes, and any number of other diseases. I also know that there's broad support for the American public. Let's take a look at the polls. Show a majority of Americans are in favor, including those who consider themselves pro-life. In fact, many have found inspiration from Senator Hatch's own writings on how he came to view this research as pro-life. I just heard that 68 religious leaders are supporting this bill. They have come to the same conclusion as the majority of Americans. Loosening federal restrictions through H.R. 810 is not only pro-life, it is pro-living. Now, I've heard the argument that Prop 71 in California and other private funding make this unnecessary. It simply isn't the case. Again, I speak from our foundation's experience. The number of applications we get featuring stem cells has more than doubled within each year, far outpacing our ability to fund them. A leading lab at the NIH itself has accepted Fox Foundation funding for stem cell research, which is very telling. And while there are some excellent stem cell researchers in California focused on PD, many more reside in other states. The most cutting-edge work in stem cells applied to PD is currently taking place in Wisconsin, New York, and Massachusetts, not to mention Sweden, Israel, Singapore, Great Britain, and South Korea. The same is true of countless other diseases. California is ramping up and will soon start to train a new generation of scientists and may convince others to move, but both will take time, and we can't afford to wait. Today there are new suggestions that we ought to try other approaches before authorizing more federal funding for more cell lines. Do we want that work to go forward? Absolutely. Do we want it to come at the price of the progress we've already made? Absolutely not. And I take issue with those who say that those other methods are somehow more ethical. Most embryos left over from in vitro fertilization are destroyed and thrown away. My thinking is the highest form of ethics for them to be donated for medical research to help save lives and allow federal funding of this research. Bringing up these alternatives at this stage seems to be more of the wait and wait attitude that is deeply frustrating to anyone who is suffering, who has a loved one who is suffering from disease. Let's not substitute process for progress. We already have the best approach in H.R. 810. It's not time to be distracted by a legislative shell game. I urge members of the Senate, send a strong message of hope to the 100 million Americans whose families are affected by disease. Vote to pass H.R. 810, the pro-living bill, with all due speed. Thank you very much.
Done and what you're doing to really taught us and move us forward. We really appreciate you being here. To all of our fellow people who are here, just, I don't know if the press has any questions. This is a press conference, obviously, and if there's any questions, we will attempt to answer it to you before we have to leave. I know Michael has to catch a plane right away, but we'll try to recognize a few, yes.
Yes, two questions, one for the politicians, one for Mr. Fox. For the politicians, what are the poison pills that the antis are preparing to put in that would cause you, that would ruin the bill? And for Mr. Fox, if you could you please comment on a fellow named Dr. Levesque in Cedars-Sinai, whom the other side from your, they have a patient who seems to be cured of Parkinson's. Seems, I cannot tell.
I can't.
But so could you?
There are a number of bills floating around now. There's 4 or 5 of them that dealers. I won't get into them. You know them. You can find out what they are. The problem is if they're trying to add as amendments and stuff. We don't mind if those bills are brought up separately. That's fine. I might even support some myself, as I've said earlier. But they should not be as amendments to this bill. Bring them up separately. Bring up H.R. 810 without amendment. Pass it. If they want to bring up the other bills, that's fine at some other point.
As to your question, I'm not familiar with the doctor or that research. I can't speak for it.
I'm not either. Yes?
Can you give us an update on where you guys are in talks with Senator Frist on how exactly you're going to bring this up and what other bills, Senator Patch?
I have a tremendous amount of respect for Senator Frist. He's a great doctor, he's a humanitarian, he's a good person, and he's wrestling with this. And frankly, it's natural, we would love to have a unanimous consent agreement that where so many bills get a vote up and down. I've made it very clear that we don't want bills that are going to draw away support from the House bill and the Inspector Harkin bill over here. He is wrestling with it as leader. He has many constituencies and within the party itself and within the Democratic Party itself. So we'll just keep working with it, and I have a feeling we're going to do real well. We just have to, but we depend on you. We depend on people out there letting people know. When the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation people came here to Capitol Hill, and these beautiful little children who are suffering from diabetes appeared in front of a lot of senators and congresspeople. That did more than all the talking we can do. Jim Langevin over here does more than all the talking we can do. He's a hero to me. Harlan's a hero to me. In fact, all of these folks are. Michael J. Fox, my gosh, it goes without saying. But I believe we're on the verge of really starting to turn this thing around and really get not only the populace at large throughout the country, but the senators to go for this too. I don't want anybody in my party to be on the wrong side of scientific history. And I'm going to do everything in my power to help make sure that they're not.
Can I follow on that though? I mean, are you talking actively with senators who may be on the fence and trying to convince them, as obviously is the message of this press conference, that if this first bill comes up, if the Hutchison alternative comes up, that they could vote for those, but they should also vote for H.R. 10? I mean, what's your response?
Not an alternative by any stretch of the imagination. Yes, we're all working very hard with our colleagues, and I certainly am. I'm meeting regularly with people and doing my best to make sure that we have a good vote on this. And I think we've got
Senator Hatch. You said before that you're confident you have 60 votes on your bills. Do you still feel that way, even if you bring it up without amendments?
I do. We're going to get 60 votes, and what I want to do is get 67 votes. And I think that we all have to work.
I agree with you on that.
Speaking of 67 votes, so have you been in contact with the White House? Are you still expecting the presidential veto? And what preparations are you making for both the House and Senate?
As you might understand, I'm not a real confidant of the White House. But I believe there's room there. I'll turn it over to them.
There's a very good reason for why he's not a great confidant. We're going to work with the White House. I think, you know, I think that, I know that President Bush is concerned about this. He wants to stand up for the principles that he's articulated, and they are matters of principle. People on both sides are good people. The one thing I just don't want to have happen, I don't want this to get denigrated by becoming political. Now, we all know that it's political in the sense that we all have to vote. But I want us to, we have an overwhelmingly confident case here. We have an overwhelming case to make. Reason is on our side. Science is on our side. People are on our side. These beautiful little children that are suffering are on our side. Michael J. Fox is on our side. As far as I'm concerned, that's enough for me. The fact of the matter is that I've seen too much suffering in this life, and too many millions of people who really might possibly be helped by this legislation. And I believe will be helped by this legislation. I'm one of the few people in Congress who's been a medical liability defense lawyer, so I've defended these cases in many cases. But I've also been a major active on the other side as well, not against doctors or healthcare providers, but helping people who are injured and people who've had sickness and people who are downtrodden. There is nothing we could do in this society that would help us more than to pass this bill and to get 67 votes and to help convince the President and others who are advising him that we're on the right track. Let me just make one last point. I have no doubt that embryonic stem cell research, as well as all the other stem cell research, will help us to understand the derivations of disease. I have no doubt that we will be able to find treatments and cures over time. If we can do that, then one of the biggest problems in America and one of the biggest future problems in America will be somewhat alleviated. And that is the high cost of medical care and treatment in our society. And if we can find ways of giving treatments or cures, we can alleviate an awful lot of the financial pain that is coming to America and is going to come to America as more and more people demand more and more health care. And frankly, I want to get there, and I want to get there now. I don't want to wait 20 years to get there, nor do I want to wait for even another year. I want to do it now. So thanks so much.
One last one.
One last question for Michael Fox. If you could talk to the President and tell him why this bill should be passed, what would he say, and how would he address the moral questions the President has raised?
What would I say?
What would you say to the President?
It's easier, first it's easier to do that. I would just very simply just appeal to him on the level of, this is not an abstract concept. I know he knows that. I know he's a good man and he wants what's best for people. That it's very real, that hourglass that Senator Specter had. It's true that the sands are running through that hourglass, and time is running out for people and their families that care for them. And we have an opportunity here to move forward with something. And these are all good people. No one here is a mad scientist. No one here wants to do anything that is ethically or morally wrong. I think everybody's guided by the same principles and the same goal, which is to help people. We just think that those people are here now, they're waiting for answers. We have the ability to help them. We have the procedures to allow this funding to happen, and I just think we there's no compelling reason not to. And if the argument is that argument about destroying the life of that embryo, that happens anyway on a large scale. Those cells are being destroyed on a daily basis, and by the President saying that certain cell lines can be available, he's already basically said, I think this is viable work. I think this is This is quality research and quality science. I'm just saying you can't do this much of it, you can do this much of it. Well, once you say we can do this much of it, what's the difference? You know, we're gonna do it responsibly and ethically, and I just think that he's got an opportunity to really do something fantastic for the world, for the future of medical research and the health of this country and people all over the globe. So I just asked him to, you know, carpe diem.